Welcome back to DCeased, right here at Comicstorian. This is the YouTube channel that likes to dramatically read your favorite comic books, allowing you to catch up on the storyline so that you can go out and buy the next issue yourself. And we also like to tell you what's going on in the world of comic book movies, video games, and just overall pop culture. Today we're going to be giving you issues 3 and 4 of DCeased. Now, when we last left off, the heroes of DCeased had left the planet Earth to its own devices. It's been about 5-ish years since they left the planet Earth, and they received a distress signal, and so they returned. They discovered that Cyborg's head was still there, and they discovered that Cyborg has told them that there is a cure for the anti-life equation zombie virus. This has sent our heroes off to try and figure out what this means, and they went to Poison Ivy's area, where they began to work with the Poison Ivy crew of Harley Quinn and various other characters. But the Justice League Dark heroes got summoned away to try and find the other survivors. Constantine, Ragman, Zatanna, and Bobo the Chimp, aka Detective Chimp. When we last left off, they were being swallowed up by a zombified plastic man, and they all seemingly died. Let's pick up with DCeased issue 3 and then issue 4. Zatanna wakes up with Bobo looking down on her. "Are you an agent of the unliving?" John asks as he helps her sit up. She shakes her head. "Good," he nods, and they quickly fill her in on what happened, explaining that Blue Devil gave his life to save her. John tells her that they are currently inside a ball of vines and weeds while the blighted plastic man is trying to get in. Zatanna stands up, putting on her top hat and ordering Swamp Thing to lower the green. She leaps into the air, and the monstrous plastic man begins to rear its attack at her as she flies through. Using her magic, she takes control of the hellfire around the bunker, burning Plastic Man to death. The group moves through the debris, finding their dead allies, and suddenly Bobo screams for them all to get down as the guns on the side of the bunker open fire at the incoming horde of the undead. The bullets stop the advancing horde, and John looks up from the ground as a voice calls out to them. "If you're planning on coming in, this is your window," Cobblepot calls out to them. Meanwhile, back in Gotham City, Damian Wayne, who is the new Batman, has had a reunion with Jim Gordon, but is interrupted as Dr. Fate arrives, telling him that Superman has recovered. Inside the Tower of Fate, John awakens to Crypto wagging his tail and licking his face. He looks over at Mary Marvel, who sits by his side. "You look familiar," John tells her, and with the utterance of a magic word, she transforms into Mary Marvel. After introduction, she explains what happened to John and how she was able to patch him up. "Thank you," John tells her with a smile. Meanwhile, over at the southern bunker, Cobblepot, Maxwell Lord, and Professor Ivo give the remains of the Shadow Pack a tour of their home. They explain that they have soldiers and guards who work as the cooking and cleaning staff. Swamp Thing still isn't happy though, as he hears the Green crying out, and John is shocked to discover that Jason Blood has also found his way into the bunker. The Ancient Knight asks to speak with John in private, and once they're alone, he transforms into Etrigan. "Before you start, could we please skip with the rhyming?" John asks him quickly, and Etrigan stands before the sorcerer, explaining that hell isn't happy because the souls of the living are trapped in the blighted ones. "Trigun is coming to wipe it all away," Etrigan warns, and he explains that even though the rich villains in this place are planning a new human race, it wouldn't matter because Trigon is coming to destroy the world. "Sure, heard it before," John scoffs. Their conversation interrupted as gunfire erupts from another part of the bunker. John rushes in to discover that Swamp Thing is attacking the bunker's guards, one of the last bastions of human beings that have survived, and Swamp Thing is trying to attack them. They've imprisoned the Floronic Man. They're torturing him. He's forcing the Green to produce for them, Zatanna quickly explains. John steps forward, trying to calm Swamp Thing, but the Guardian of the Green isn't listening, as he orders the men to release the Floronic Man. One of them refuses, and Swamp Thing pops his head off. Bobo turns his head, hearing Cobblepot tell Ivo that it is time, when suddenly a Mazo launches into the room, lasers shooting out of his eyes. The heat vision hits Swamp Thing, burning into him. Zatanna tries to stop the android with a spell, but more of them suddenly fly into the room. "Z, they have more than one," John warns, and he creates a portal, and despite Swamp Thing's arguments, the group leaps into it as John promises that they'll return with a plan. The rich villains stand by, noting that the group will return. "It doesn't matter. We'll take this world soon," Cobblepot tells them as they walk down the hallway, observing their army of Amazos. The next day, the group is listening as Cyborg explains that the cure is in his programming somewhere. They question him, but he tells them that he has been searching all of his coding and he can't find it anywhere. "Death could have just been lying," Harley notes, but Cassie informs them that if Vic was using the lasso of truth, Wonder Woman couldn't lie. So after hearing everything, John stands ready. They know that there is in fact a cure somewhere out there. We're gonna find the cure and we're gonna save them all, he tells the group. And they begin to work through the problem, with Damian noting that if there is an anti-life equation, then there must be a life equation. Bobo adds that possibly the New Gods might know something about it. Hearing this, John tells them that he thinks he knows what they need, but it means doing something that he really doesn't want to do, bothering someone who probably prefers to stay unbothered. So a short time later, John and Bobo appear before an old cabin. The door opens, and they reveal a man in the shadows. "How did you find me?" "World's greatest detective," John says, motioning at Bobo. Mr. Miracle steps out, demanding to know what John wants, and he tells Scott that there is a way to save everyone, to save Barda. But Scott becomes angry, demanding to know how he could possibly believe John after last time. "Ask me," John tells him, holding up Cassie's lasso of truth. "There's a cure, Scott. We can save her," John tells him. Scott stares at him for a moment before asking what John needs him to do. "First up, take a bath or a shower. Then, we need your help in stealing the throne of a god," John tells him. Meanwhile, over in Gotham Garden, Kid Flash stands ready, warning the others as a boom tube begins to open up. They stand prepared for a fight, but it's John Constantine, Bobo the Chimp, and Mr. Miracle that step out. Batman appears behind the wizard, frightening him as he asks why he would open up a boom tube straight into the garden. A short time later, the group discusses the plan. John believes that the Mobius chair would have the answer for how Vic needs to access the cure that is buried in his programming. They have all agreed that it would be impossible to catch Metron and that they need to lure him someplace. "Metron prizes knowledge above all else," Batman tells them. John nods, believing that Madame Xanadu's crystal ball and the ability to see the future should be enough to bring Metron to them. "This could work," Scott tells them. "I'll take Cyborg to New Genesis, because I don't know how you'll be greeted." "You'll be greeted with friends at your side," Superman simply states. He looks around, telling them that anyone who could deal with space should come, when suddenly he realizes that Dinah isn't in the group. Stepping up, Harley fills him in on how Dinah left with the zombie Oliver because Poison Ivy would not let him into the garden. "I'll find her," John says, leaping into the air, being the Superman that you would expect him to be, and Mary Marvel joins him, telling him that there are dangers in the world that he doesn't even know about. So they find Dinah sitting on a rooftop in the rain, the water mingling with the tears in her eyes. She leaps up when she sees John, hugging him with joy. "Are you planning on sitting out here alone?" Mary asks her as they sit next to her on the building. But Dinah explains that she isn't alone, and up floats the blighted Oliver before them. "I promised I'd bring him back," she tells them simply. And John explains that there is a cure, and that they're going to need her help. When Dinah tells them that she keeps Oliver, Mary offers to sneak him into the garden to be protected by Dr. Fate. So a short time later, they bid their friends and loved ones goodbye as the group steps through the boom tube with Scott free, and they appear in New Genesis, quickly greeted by Orion. "What the hell are you doing here? You would walk into New Genesis with the anti-life equation," Orion demands as he points at Vic. Mr. Miracle tries to argue, but Orion punches him across the face. "Stand!" he orders. "Standing," Scott says, blood on his face as he struggles to his feet, and Orion hits him again. And they repeat this process until John steps in. "Leave him alone," he says, punching Orion hard enough to knock a god down. "And stay down," John orders him as he towers over the god. Highfather approaches, once again seeing his sons fighting. And quickly the group explains that there is a cure for the anti-life zombie equation. They might be able to save everyone. "Highfather, we need the Mobius chair. Will you call out to Metron?" Scott asks his father. Highfather explains that Metron does what Metron wishes. Even with their offering, he might not give up the Mobius chair willingly. "But I will call Metron," his father promises his son. Later, Mr. Miracle hovers in the dead of space that was once the planet Apocalypse. He holds Madame Xanadu's crystal ball in his hands. "He's coming. Everyone get ready," John tells the group on the radio. And in a blur of motion, Metron appears before Scott. "Highfather said you have an object for me? Something to see the future?" Metron asks, not bothering with a greeting. He reaches for the crystal, believing that he can use it to see the disaster that approaches, but his arm is suddenly shackled by the Green Lantern. The heroes leap in at him, ambushing him, trying to wrestle the giant away from his chair. But quickly he overpowers them, tossing them aside. Metron then steps aboard his chair once more, quickly escaping into space. Mary and John fly as fast as they can, trying to catch up. "Wait, please!" John calls out, and as Metron slows, John floats before him. He explains that they didn't want to fight, but that they only need his chair for a moment, and the god stops, and he stares at them as they explain what is happening on Earth. They explain the anti-life equation zombies. They explain that there is a cure. They explain that he alone can help them save the universe. "I don't care," he tells them simply, but Mary has the wisdom of Solomon. "If we fail to contain this and death wins, what happens to knowledge?" She asks him, and Metron stares at them for a moment. "You should have opened with that instead of an ambush," he tells them. Metron agrees to let them use the chair if he can look into the crystal ball. "There is something I have seen in the future, but I know not how it begins," he tells them. With their agreement made, Vic sits in the chair, and energy crackles as the endless knowledge floods into his mind. "Vic, do you know about the cure?" Vic nods. "I need to recode my blood. The life equation is there," he tells them. John tries to thank Metron for his help, but the god is barely listening. He tells them that he must go, and he quickly flees in the Mobius chair. He took one look into the future and hurried away, Dinah whispers. And as the heroes return to Earth, they are unaware of the Black Racer's presence. He is sitting and watching as one of the asteroids from Apocalypse begins to quake and glow, and suddenly it explodes, revealing the death within. Darkseid roars in rage and madness, and in New Genesis, the High Father turns and sees the fire that falls from the sky. He yells a warning to the others as he hears his son screaming from outside the gate, "Father!" Orion yells as the High Father rushes forward, and the unliving Darkseid is already among them. DCeased Dead Planet issues 3 and 4. Now, like I told you guys about a month ago now, we're not stopping DCeased, we're not stopping Joker War, we're not stopping any of these. But instead of me trying to rush out content as quickly as possible, giving you a lower quality, giving you a rushed product, we decided to instead do it this way. We're waiting for multiple comics to come out to give you a fully fleshed out video. Something that makes a little bit more sense than jumping in at a single issue and hoping you remembered what happened a month ago. At the end of all of these, we're going to do 5 and 6 together, but at the end of all of these, we're going to give you the full story, which is all 6 of these. And we're also going to go back to DCeased and Hope at World's End, because that's also coming as well. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as next week we're going to give you the full Joker War, which means all the Batman chapters, all of the Nightwing chapters, and all of the Red Hood chapters all at once, just for you guys. Don't forget, you can also find us over at Patreon, where we're releasing early access to all of these videos, sometimes only a day early, but we're trying to do it more than that. And just in general, guys, thank you so much for your continued support. As far as DCeased, it's still one of my favorite books. I love the direction it's going, and the unliving Darkseid is the new monster I talked about in my review. If you want to get my overall opinions on this whole thing, we did an entire review episode. I can show you guys that whenever you want. But overall, guys, thank you so much for your support, and I will see you next time right here at the Comicstorian channel.